Hello, my friends. Welcome to Simply Cyber Live. It's Thursday, 4:30 p.m., and that means one thing. First, it means that I'm going to take the scrolling thing off the bottom of ours so we get a little bit more real estate. We are going to be covering an hour-long interview with an industry expert to deliver educational and entertaining value to you in the next hour, and I am super, super excited. It is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, so obviously it seems totally on brand talking about security awareness, and most importantly, the mistakes that you need to avoid. We're going to be joined with James McQuiggan, who is a security awareness advocate at KnowBe4. Now, James and I had the opportunity to meet at Black Hat this year, and one thing led to another. We went to dinner, we went to a party together, we hung out, we high-fived. It was a whole thing. We went to another party the next night. It was cool. Like, I spent a lot of time with this guy. He is a really, really wonderful person, good soul. You've actually may recognize him because he's been joining the Simply Cyber community, the morning threat briefings ever since we hooked up there in Vegas. But he's got some hot takes, some interesting angles, and basically a career of experience to share with us. Now, you guys know how pumped I am about a security awareness, so I'm sure I'm going to be interjecting and blurting in, not just facilitating the conversation. So settle in, get comfy. If you got to hit the head, do it now. If you got to get a drink, do it now, because once this train starts rolling, man, you're not going to want to get off, okay? And by the way, if you're new here, if you want to throw a question up to us, put a Q in front of it so I know it's for me and we're not just having a conversation in chat for yourself. But we're going to have a banger today. I can't wait. Let me go get James. What's up, James? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Jerry. Good to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a pleasure. I also didn't mention that James and I actually have been embroiled in an endless assault of chess matches on chess.com ever since we first met. I defeated him in chess in Vegas on like the huge chessboard at Beers Park or whatever. And ever since then, he hasn't released me from his grasp of just hammering me in chess. So it's been fun, James, getting to know you.
Oh no, the feeling is certainly mutual. I appreciate the choice word of opportunity. For me, it was a pleasure getting to meet you, and I'd seen you around on YouTube and your the community that you built up. For me, that was what was most impressive, and I felt honored just to be a part of that and to hang out and meet with some of the folks there in Vegas when we were there. And just for the record, I'm going to finally come clean. That first chess game we played, I just let you win. I didn't want you to feel bad that I.
Yeah. I could see that. I do run pretty hot emotionally. I could have just lost it, right? So yeah, way to throw it in. I will say, we'll get into cybersecurity in just a moment, but I will say that James was destroying me in that match for the first 90%, and then he took his eye off the ball for a hot minute, and I moved in. Want to give a shout out really quick to my man Jeremy Williams with the super chat coming in hot early. Jeremy Williams ready to get some value. I definitely love it. Thanks so much, Jeremy. All right, y'all, let's pivot into security awareness. Now, James, let me ask you just broad strokes, because I have a very strong opinion on security awareness. What is the main objective of security awareness at an organization?
So I usually like to relate this to something that people can, an analogy that people can relate to. If in your neighborhood, or homes or apartment buildings or wherever you may live, if you were to hear about homes being broken into and you were to learn how they were burglaring the homes, they're going in, they're ringing the doorbell, nobody answers. I mean, not too many people answer much these days anyway, but they ring the doorbell, nobody answers. So they go around to the back of the house and they smash in the window and they climb in. And they start looking for electronics, things they can grab very quickly, cash, Nintendo Switches, TVs, whatever it may be. And then they take off out the back window and, run off to a pawn shop and sell it. Mm-hmm. But if we knew that that's what they were doing and how they were doing it, well, then we could turn around and go, all right, we're going to have, we're going to set up the motion cameras. We're going to have the motion sensor lights. We're going to turn on the security alarm system or get one installed. Hey, you might even have a beware of dog sign right there in the front window. And then when you ring the doorbell, it plays the sound of barking dogs. You'd be surprised, but it works because we had I think it was an air conditioner guy coming to service it last year. Doorbell rang, dogs barked. Oh yeah, we have 3 cats in our house, so they scattered to all corners of the house. We open up the door and there's the guy standing there, and he's like, he's looking real pale, and we're like, "You all right? Is everything all right? You good?" And he goes, "You guys don't have dogs, do you? I don't do well with dogs." I'm like, No. We got 3 cats. That's just the doorbell. So he even was worried that we had dogs. So that acted as a deterrent. So we kind of flip that now and we go, okay, if we have cybersecurity awareness and we make people aware how cyber criminals are doing these attacks, there is part of it that freak people out and go, okay, that's it. I'm never opening email again, or that's it. I'm off Facebook or whatever else. But like everything else that's out there, it's just a matter of having to become aware of it, understand how that works, and then part of it is to care enough that you take the necessary steps, actions to be able to protect yourself, your email, your social media, your friends and family, your organization. Because pretty well, we all have email. Even in our organizations, we have an organization email. And for me, anybody that has an email address for an organization, you have the proverbial key to the front door for that organization with nobody else to stop you, because essentially you could click on a link, open up an attachment, and you are opening that front door for the cyber criminal to be able to walk right in. Yes, I know there's technology and secure email gateways, and we can go into that. But essentially, you are having a key to the front door. And I've got 2 daughters that are in their 20s, and essentially we gave them a house key at one point. We told them the rules and responsibilities they had with having that key. The same thing needs to apply with email and that awareness that we have for the organizations, for all of our users.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. And like you said, there are technologies out there that can limit the amount, but some of them get through, right? And, you're talking kind of holistically here too. Like, yes, a KnowBe4, right? A KnowBe4 company probably has a really good email gateway, right? We're not going to name names, but it has some email gateway that's protecting it, right? And I use Gmail. They've got a fantastic one built in too. But not everybody, whether it's for work or it's personal, not everybody's using a secure email gateway. Some people use like whatever the church is that they go to, like some nonprofit set it up, or whatever. So there is a higher likelihood of those kind of emails getting through. Also, we're seeing an uptick in activity in smishes, which is essentially the same thing, right? Especially nowadays with BYOD. This phone is on my corporate network. I can get a text message. The attack vector is the same, and then the lateral movement potentials are a little bit more murky, but there is opportunity there. I want to share with you my philosophy, if I can, James. And sorry, Simply Cyber communities probably heard this before, but I always think of security awareness as, and it sounds devious, but let's just be real. I think of security awareness training as an opportunity to modify people's behaviors. And I'm not saying like in a psyops way where like, oh, you're gonna, you're the Manchurian candidate now or something like that. But a situation where you're enabling them with information to make better decisions. Most people want to do the right thing. Most people don't want to click on the link and compromise their business, right?
Exactly.
But they don't know any different, right? So, yeah. So, okay. So now that we have kind of our philosophical underpinnings defined, relative to the title of this particular show, what's a security mistake that people make? Like what's just one that's like, oh my God, again with this?
A lot of the time, and there's a variety of different things, but a lot of the time, and this is one of my favorite ones, and this is more for the users, not really for the folks that run the security awareness program. A lot of people think with regards to the phishing simulation. So if you're in your organization, you've done your security awareness training, and then you have them sending out those fake phishing emails.
I have a line for this one. I was hoping we would speak about that. You see down here, James?
The philosophy on phishing end users.
Yeah. So please continue. Sorry to interrupt.
Here's my philosophy. And this comes from the fact that I also teach college. This is not a gotcha moment. And a lot of people think that we're the IT folks or whoever's running it are out to get them. They're thinking, okay, let's see, we make this one real sticky and we make it deal with money and we'll get them all and we'll get as many people as we can. As much as we'd like to believe that, and I know when I was running my phishing program at Siemens many, many, many years ago, that was part of it. That was like, let's see how sticky, let's see who I can catch. I've had to change that philosophy and that way of thinking, because I have been phished at no before. I get phished twice a week, and unfortunately I have fallen victim to it. And that's another story, and we'll get into that in a bit. But the idea here is it's not a gotcha moment. They're not out there to try and get you. They're out there to try and teach you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a teaching moment where, yes, you ended up clicking on the link, and you're going to go through these, what I like to call the 4 stages of phishing grief. I know there's 5 stages. I know there's 5 stages of grief, but first of all, you click on that link and then you realize what you've done, and it's shock. And you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I just clicked on it. And then, and the cold sweat runs down your back, because this is what was happening when it happened to me. Then you go through a phase of denial. Oh, no. I clicked on it, but I closed down the browser right away. They wouldn't have had a lot of time to get in. I didn't enter my credentials. You go through that denial phase. Then you get into the anger phase, and it's twofold. The anger phase shows up because, one, you get the email from IT going, hi, congratulations, you get to take the refresher training. And I'm paraphrasing it and being a little malicious with it, facetious with it. But the other reason is you get angry with yourself internally. And you're angry because we're smart people. We're educated. We've been to school. We know, and the fact that we feel that we're smart enough, I'm not going to fall for a scam. I'm not going to, that's not going to happen to me, but it does. And then you get angry with yourself. You get angry because they got you. And then you go into the acceptance phase where it's like, okay, all right, I'll take my punishment. I'll take the licks. I'll do the training. And for me, when I had to go back and do the little refresher training, they give you the quiz and the little test at the end. And I was sweating it, because I'm sitting there going, if I get any of these wrong, I'm not going to hear the end of it.
Yeah, right.
From our IT folks. Now, I mentioned there were 4 stages. Now, with phishing grief. With grief, there's bargaining. And there is no bargaining with the IT folks in phishing grief. So I just don't talk about it. So, but the reason I ended up falling victim to that phishing was I was in a rush. And a lot of the time, that's what happens with people, and why they end up clicking on it is they're in a rush. They're in a rush state. Something's happening. For me, it was a Zoom email, and we use Zoom at No before. Okay, yeah, OPSEC. Okay, but we use Zoom, and it was 11:59, right before lunch. I'm on a call waiting to connect with a customer to talk about a presentation I'm going to do. And I have my email, my Gmail is closed on the computer, but my phone is sitting on a cradle right in front of me. And as I'm just sitting there waiting, the customer hasn't connected yet, 11:59. And on the phone, it popped up with a preview of this email that was a Zoom email that said, you have somebody waiting in your call. And I'm sitting there going, I'm in the call.
Yeah.
Am I in the wrong call? Are they in the wrong call? Oh, shoot, what the heck is going on here? It's almost noon. I don't want to be late. I don't want them to be late. So I said, all right. So I close out of the Zoom, open up or minimize the Zoom, go into the Gmail, open it up. There's that Zoom email right at the top. Click on the link to join the meeting. Okay, let's click on the link. Let's see what meeting they're in. And I click on the link, and up pops the Know Before login box. Well, I'm already logged into Know Before. So at that point, it was a shoot kind of moment.
Yeah.
And I then went back, hovered over the link, and saw that it was one of our phishing simulation links. And then I went through that whole range of emotions that came back. Now, the interesting thing was they hit me at the right time. They got me. I was in a hurried state. I was worried. I was rushed. So I didn't take the time to check the link. Now, here's the funny thing, and this is where the whole denial aspect comes in. If it had been 5 minutes sooner at 11:55 and they said that they were connected, I would have just opened up my Zoom app and gone in normally the way I do. And then they wouldn't have been there. And I would have been like, well, that's strange. And then I wouldn't have been as freaking out. If it had been 5 minutes later, I would have already been in the meeting. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Again, it's part of all that whole denial stage. And one of the great things we do is when we do get phished, we get to provide feedback to our team to let them know what we were doing, what happened, how we felt, that kind of thing. And for me, I always bust their chops, because I'm saying, if we had somebody inside our environment and they knew I was getting on a call right at that time, we have bigger fish and bigger problems that we have to deal with. But I think just generally people have meetings, at the top of the hour, the half hour, which, if you're going to send out a phishing simulation to your users, as a sticky one, you want to see if they're going to be rushed or they're going to see if they're going to learn that lesson and, check the link and not click on it. So yeah, it was a fun learning experience. Now, whenever I get email, I go through and it's like, okay, do I know the person? Am I expecting it? Is there a strange request in there? And if any of those don't seem right, I'm taking that extra moment now to go through and either check the link or whoever it's coming from to make sure that it's legit. Because yep, I learned my lesson.
I was just going to say, it sounds like that experience modified your behavior. I mean, for the good, and you are a seasoned professional, but I mean, I've fallen for fish as well.
Our CEO, rocket scientists, doctors, lawyers, everybody.
So as you were talking, I wrote this one up here, as you can see on the call out, talking about empathy. So you experienced this 4 stages of phishing grief, as you called it. And it's real emotion. It's real, I don't want to say shame, but, people feel like, oh my God, like I'm smarter than this. Like, I don't want to be labeled as like Carl or like, as a fool or something. So I think it's important. And I'm curious of your thoughts on this. It's important to A, have experienced it so you can understand, and B, to not be dictating in an ivory tower what the training is, but to get to meet the business, understand. I believe empathy is an absolute necessity in being able to effectively connect and communicate with your end users, with the business. What are your thoughts around how empathy, is involved?
Yeah, empathy is certainly one of the key components. For me, one of the other aspects was, if you're going to do the phishing assessment in your organization, don't let them know if they've passed or failed if it's the first one. Because usually what you do when you're doing your phishing assessments, you want to get a baseline. And usually that's just to get the baseline. Don't make them do the training at that point. Then you give them the training. And then after that, when they do that training, that's the opportunity, whether it's for onboarding or you're introducing it to your organization. Empathy is key. The other aspect, and I always like to go back to Mr. Simon Sinek and the whole why. We've got the how, the what, but the why. It's important that your users understand the why behind this. Why are we doing this? Why are we sending you these fake phishing emails so we can get you to click on it and give you a lesson? It's to help protect the organization overall. Bottom line, we can see quarter after quarter, year after year, phishing numbers are going up. Why? Because it still works. Cyber criminals are still able to get in. And so it's important that your users understand the why behind it, because we're doing this to protect the organization. And you have a key to the front door. Yep. And we want to make sure that you're going to protect that key and you're going to protect that front door for us, because we're all a part of making sure we keep keeping the organization secure. We got our IT folks and they're awesome. We got our InfoSec cybersecurity folks and they're doing all the policies and the programs and everything else. But because you've got an email that connects to the outside world, you get to play in the game as well. And so empathy is important. That comes into play, letting them know the why. Try to get, keep it fun if you can, doing contests and those kind of things. So, as you kind of put that all into your program, those are certainly some key elements to have. But yeah, definitely empathy.
So another mistake I'd be curious about that people should be avoiding. A lot of times when we talk about user awareness training, it's so funny. I'm so passionate about the topic that like 3 other ideas just popped into my head while I was speaking. When we talk about it,
workshop.
Yeah. Seriously. We regularly think of the general populace, right? Everybody gets it. The executives get it. Carl gets it. The vendors might get it before they get access to the environment. But IT people, and not just IT, but IT are the common ones that have the privileged access. You'll also see like research or engineering people, development people will have elevated privileges because they need to do special things on their systems. Mm-hmm. And with poor role-based access control, you just kind of like give them everything and, oh, look, they stopped calling the help desk, like problem solved. Right. So what are your thoughts around, or mistakes that people might be making around tailored security awareness training for some of these higher risk profiles or higher risk avatars?
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a really good point, because when you've got folks that have higher privileges, they present a higher risk. And when you're looking at your general populace, what kind of risk level do they present because they've got the email or because they've got the ability to do a lot more on their system? And then when you start looking at executives and you start looking at the R&D folks and everybody, with R&D, you can segregate and separate them out. I mean, I've known in the past, some organizations, you would have your email, you'd have your one machine that would do all your email stuff, but then you'd have a separate system on a separate network without that email, without, with the more open privileges, but it would be an isolated on the network. But if you're like a university where you've got your professors and you've got your R&D folks and they're going through and they've got higher level privileges, you certainly want to be doing more. You want to be doing more assessments on them. You want to be making sure that they're, creating that, or keeping security top of mind, that they're going through, they're able to spot the phishing emails. They're not installing all kinds of crazy programs on the system that you have. And this is where the technology comes in, like your EDR systems, we won't name companies, but your EDR systems and other technology that you can have on there to monitor, so they're not connecting to cloud environments that they shouldn't be, or installing applications they shouldn't be. So when you've got folks that have that higher level of risk exposure, you want to be doing those couple extra steps to make sure that they're not, the entryway for the cyber criminals coming in. Whereas with the general populace, if you've got things locked down, least privilege, limited access accounts to certain things, then they're at that lower risk. So you don't need as much possibly to monitor them. I think that's kind of where I would go with it.
Yeah, I think it's very valid. What about, I feel like another mistake, and by mistake, what I mean is doing something is better than doing nothing, right? But there's levels of improvement that can be made for ultimately the modification of the end user's behavior. This is the goal of security awareness training. So one thing that I think is a mistake that some people make is the material, whatever it is, so you get phished, right? Or you do your annual training or whatever. The material, the content that you're putting in front of the end user is tone deaf, to use a plain term, right? It's too technical, so they don't even understand it. It's too in the weeds, so they don't care. There's no connection with them. And, I feel that's a mistake, right? And there's many ways to fix that, right? You can pull an example from today's news. You can pull an example from yesterday's news, and I guarantee you from tomorrow's news, you can pull examples. What are your thoughts around these type of mistakes, around the tone deafness of how it resonates with the end users?
Yeah, one of the things, and I'm shameless plug here for KnowBe4, because they pay the bills.
Yeah.
We have what we call the new school security awareness training, and it's designed so that it's more engaging, it's more interactive. It's not you sit there and watch a computer-based training, or you're watching just a video. Videos are part of it, but it's more engaging. There's exercises that you're going through, answering questions, and it's not just that common sense quiz that you would get at the end. It's actually going through it, have that more engaging content, have other ways that you can support the training as well once they're done, because once a year training doesn't really cut it. When you're doing it more frequently, and Perry Carpenter, one of our chief strategy officer at KnowBe4 and a good friend, he used a comparison or an analogy, and I ended up stealing it from him, just because I think it's awesome. You can't go to the gym once a year and expect to have a fully toned, muscular, ripped, six-pack, body. It's something that you have to work at, and you've got to work at multiple ways: diet, exercise, and continually going through and working out and doing different things. Same thing with security awareness. You can't just do the once a year security awareness training. You've got to introduce other elements throughout the year, whether that's in department meetings, you have somebody that comes out with a security tip, or you have a catalog of security tips that somebody can read from, do a little research, and present to their department. 5 minutes worth of time in a meeting. When I worked at power plants, when I would go and visit the power plants working at Siemens, health and safety was a part of that culture where you go in, have the training, get your little sticker for passing the test, and then, but every meeting they would always have somebody giving a health and safety tip. So you introduce it that way to grow that security culture of the organization. You might even have videos. One of the things we have, you can't see it because it's cut out, but the Inside Man series is a video series that we have at Know Before that we are now filming our 5th season of it. But what it is, it was created kind of like a Netflix series where I think it's like 12 episodes. Each episode's about 8 minutes, but it's story first. It's all about entertaining you. But as you go along and you spot the mistakes, the cybersecurity mistakes, and then at the end of the episode, they do a quick little recap of the 2 or 3 items throughout the episode. And I love telling the story where when I got hired at Know Before, they had already had the first season out. They were getting ready to release the second one. So I got to watch the whole first season. And I thought it was fantastic. It was a great story. Story first, cybersecurity second. And I got such a kick out of it. I decided to, I had it on my work laptop. I hooked it up to the TV and I said to my wife, honey, you got to check this out. This is really cool. It's a neat story and everything else. Well, the story opens up where the inside man, the guy that's trying to break into the organization, he's sitting there in the lobby, got a suit on, and somebody's walking out and she's got a guest badge on, and he stands up and kind of gets in front of her and goes, sorry, miss, you can't go outside without your guest pass. Oh, and she's on the phone. So, oh, sorry. So she takes it off and hands it to him. My wife sits there and goes, what the heck is she doing giving it to the guy? Does she not know he's not in security? So I'm sitting there, I'm looking, I'm like, okay, just keep watching. Next thing you know, he gets upstairs. He gets through the first gate. He's upstairs. He's standing there with coffees in his hand and a phone like this, and he's talking, and he sees some people going into a door, and he kind of works his way over, and they hold the door open, and he walks in. Oh my God, why are they holding the door open? Didn't they check his badge? Why did he badge into the room? So at this point, I turned it off because I'm like, okay, you don't need to watch this. Yeah. She was spotting everything. She's learned through osmosis, I guess, married to me. But that's the reaction. That's what we're looking for when you watch that going, oh, why are they doing that? Oh, they shouldn't do that. Or because you learn that. And then that helps emphasize and support the training that you would have throughout the year. And so we come out with the new series every year. And I've talked with customers and friends of mine who are customers, and they'll do their department meetings monthly and they'll show a new episode. And everybody can't wait for the next meeting because they want to see the next episode. It's that kind of engagement is what you're looking for when you have your training program. Don't just make it once a year, have it continually going on throughout the whole year.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I hadn't heard about that. I love that idea. And I want to particularly point out why I love it is that, a lot of these examples, they're point in time. It's like, all right, like here's the scenario. This weirdo's on one side of the door and he's knocking and saying, please open the door. My hands are full. What should Sally do? And it's like it's just so sterile and like, bleh, but having it, this is an aside tangent, but storytelling is one of the most impactful skills in human nature. Like it's how we've passed down knowledge for, thousands of years until the printing press, right? And then the internet, and right. So, and then neural links. But my point is, storytelling is incredibly powerful for conveying a message, for communicating, and for, kind of baking in other alternative agendas, much like what you're saying. So I absolutely love that. That's like next level of effort, though, obviously, with production.
In my presentations that I do, which is the day job, when I do my presentations, it's all about storytelling. It's all about providing, giving you a bit of information, but then having a story that goes along with it, just to help drive that point, because people can relate to stories, that emotion that goes with it, a lot more than they can with the information. So if I were to say, here's 5 pitfalls to avoid, and I list all 5, you are probably not going to remember them. But if I tell a story around, Susie and her new security awareness program and how she had problems and what she learned from it, the emotions that might go with it, that's going to hold on a lot longer as well.
Absolutely. And
Thank you, Paula. Thank you.
Yeah.
My new friend.
I want to say I don't normally pull these on stage, but want to give a shout out and say what's up to Clint. I bring Clint onto stage particularly because Clint is the one who initially introduced me to James at Black Hat. So I owe it to Clint the relationship that I've forged in the chest scars I've acquired.
Are we going to call him Yenta now?
Yenta? Why?
The matchmaker?
Oh, okay.
Sorry, musical theater reference. Sorry, back from my old days of musical theater.
No, I absolutely love it. So let me ask you this: one argument, and I was actually a guest on Recon InfoSec's Thursday Defensive podcast recently, cool. And one of the topics that kind of came up was a discussion about whether or not better tech is the answer, right? If you put better tech in place, you can kind of minimize, marginalize, remove the human from it. So you and I are approaching it as delivering awareness, behavior modifying knowledge. And some people in our community are thinking there's got to be an engineered solution. What are your thoughts around this argument?
And it's a good argument, and we can be talking about it, for hours and hours on end. But we're already living in a world of technology, and it's because of technology with email that we deal with the social engineering. Years ago there was social engineering. I mean, I'll admit it, but I love the movie Catch Me If You Can. I think Tom Hanks, Leonardo DiCaprio, fantastic. Yes. But I love the story because it's loosely based on Frank Abagnale's adventures of social engineering. But we had social engineering way back then, and then technology had to improve to stop them from robbing the banks, stealing the money, printing the counterfeit forged checks. Mm-hmm. We're now to a point where, okay, we've got technology with email. We can send messages to a whole lot of people very quickly and get it in milliseconds. And that technology, cyber criminals have now shifted it to where they are social engineering people, not in person, but now doing it electronically. And we need the technology there to help. But there's always going to be the need for a pilot. Planes, you can get on a plane and they can pop it on autopilot to take off and land, but you still need the pilot in there. Now, we can go into discussions about, self-driving cars and all that stuff. But I think they still have a steering wheel in there. So in case you got to take over, but technology is there, and we're constantly improving the technology. They're sandboxing the links when they come in. They're sandboxing the documents when they come in. And you touched upon it earlier, Jerry, when you were talking about the technology, the secure email gateways, and some people have them and some people don't. The other thing to think about is the cyber criminals that are out there, the sophisticated ones, the ones that have a lot of money, the cyber criminal groups, they're going out and buying the same technology that we've got, that organizations have. They're buying those secure email gateways, the firewalls, and they're trying their emails or whatever they've got against that technology to see what gets through, because they're having to constantly evolve it as well. And most of the time, they're probably doing it with all the default settings, maybe tweaking some of the filters. But they're going through and trying it to see what gets through, and then they set it aside if it works, and then they kick it out if it doesn't. So, yeah, our technology is going to stop 85, 90, 95% of the emails. But when there's billions of emails being transmitted every day, that's still a lot of email that's going to get through to the human. And so there has to be that awareness for them. And we can have technology to help that if they end up clicking on the link, if it does go to a malicious site and a SOC can stop it, or there's technology that can check it ahead of time and go, whoop, hey, according to Virus Total, this is not a good site, and then they drop it. That's where the technology is going to come in, but it's not always going to be, the be all end all. And people have to be able to buy that technology as well, because, the companies that create it, they got to keep in business. And so they're going to sell it. And when you've got nonprofits or small businesses that can't afford some of that higher end technology, it makes it a little different. But it's got to work hand in hand. And the technology may not always be there, but it is improving and evolving. And hopefully I do hope we get to the point where we get all the phishing emails that come in and you could click them till the cows come home and nothing bad happens to your computer. But we're not there yet. So until that happens, I still got a job, and so do you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've seen this with DLP, and hold on, I gotta make a note here. Bad guys using tech. Okay, so I've got two thoughts, right? And one is you say like, okay, so all the tech gets like wicked good at what it does, right? We have seen DLP, which is data loss prevention, which is probably the most um I hate to call it ridiculous, but I have strong opinions about DLP. I have never, ever, ever seen it implemented correctly. I have what ends up it's for some reason CISOs want to put it in first instead of like MFA. And it's like the hardest control to actually implement correctly. And then what ends up happening is you put it in, it blocks everything. So then you tune it out, it blocks most stuff, and then you just let everything through, and then you go right back to where you were, and then you say you have DLP, but it's not configured correctly. So my point being is James is talking about a tech in the future that can identify all the fishes, but there's going to be false positives. We cannot avoid that. You're going to impact business, and then people are going to get mad, and then you're just going to throttle it back, and then the fishes will get back through. So I'm with you on that. But
now,
one thing that
you just mentioned something. You mentioned about multi-factor authentication. I don't know if anybody knows that's listening here today, but do you know what the name of the most secure woman in the world is?
No.
Her name is Emma Faye. MFA. Emma.
Oh my God. That's our first dad joke. Oh my God. First dad joke of the day. So for those of you who don't know, James McQuiggan is the godfather of dad jokes. So anyways, the other thing that James mentioned that I love, and a lot of people don't know this, okay? So if you're new to the industry, you may not know this, okay? Threat actors, they get paid really well, all right? Like most of them, they get paid well because of their criminal empire, right? It's nothing for them to purchase technology like James is talking about and test their own attacks on it. And I see it less. I never even thought about email gateways doing it, but you see it awesome or done really well. And it was dropped in the Conti leaks that was covered by Brian Krebs, that the Conti ransomware gang actually had licenses to all the major EDR solutions. And they had a whole department of mules basically who would take the new code base, run it through, see if all the EDRs detected it. And if they did, they'd go back and fix until it could pass through. And then, and because the EDRs were updating daily, they had this team. This was their job every day. Come in, make sure it gets through. So, you're 100% right. I never thought about it, but it's brilliant, right? Start crafting fishes and make sure that they're getting through this gateway. And if they're not, well, then we gotta, we gotta tweak it or whatever. Now it's a little different because you will be pushing the emails through a centralized gateway source, which they could start detecting. Like, okay, like it seems like it's 100% fishes coming out of this one organization. But again, we're not gonna get into all that. But it is very interesting. James, really quick to go back to a quick point you made. Joshua B wanted to know if that Inside Man was available on YouTube. He wanted to consume it.
I wish. Right now it is intellectual property of KnowBe4. So if you are a customer, I think you have to be a Diamond customer, you're able to watch it. We did have it on Amazon for a short period of time, but then Amazon removed it. I don't know why. I never got told why, but it was on there for a bit, which was great because I was telling everybody to go watch it, and then they pulled it. So if you're a KnowBe4 customer, you should be able to get it through the mod store.
I love it. Also,
by the way,
yeah.
Do you know what kind of bait that fishers like to use?
No.
Click bait.
Oh my God. Okay. I need a better, like, I wasn't prepared. Oh wait, hold on. This is probably more on brand. There we go. So, all right. China's got a hot take going back to your music days here that security awareness training may have more impact if done in theater form.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Rachel Toback actually has done that. She is very well known in the social engineering space. She's a security consultant, goes around. She's gone through, I haven't had a chance to see them yet. But she has put together some musical numbers for security awareness tips. But yeah, no, I was kicking myself going, oh man, I can't believe, we didn't snag that, because the guy that directs our Inside Man series, his background is musical theater and opera and everything else. And I have to imagine we may try and do something. I'm not saying we are, total disclaimer, but I gotta imagine that we can't, that we may take a shot at it. It may have already, been trademarked. I don't know what's going on with it, but no, I agree. Any way to get people to learn and kind of support that point. We were chatting about it internally, and some of us were like, oh my God, I can't believe this is musical theater numbers with security awareness. I'm like, if it's a way to get people to remember it, Ron Clark. So kind of I don't want to get too deep on this, but
no, that's good.
My wife, semi-retired school teacher, one of her favorite mentors and idols in the teaching world, education world, is a guy by the name of Ron Clark, and he's based out of Atlanta. And he originally started in North Carolina. They did a movie about him with Matt Perry years ago. But what he would do to get kids to learn is he would teach it, but then he would teach them a song, and it'd be like a rap song, because he was working in the Title IX schools or whatever, the schools that are lower almost poverty line. But a lot of his kids loved rap music, so he decided to put some of his lessons to rap music, and the kids loved it. He now eventually got to a point. He opened his own school in Atlanta. Kids are wearing uniforms. They come in, but a lot of the lessons are based around music, some sort of rap music or song that they like. And then they do it. And the kids remember. My wife even did it in her classrooms because she taught history. So she would have those songs. And it's just for kids, it's great. It's another fun way to learn how to get the information in your head. I mean, even to the point where, they had a song for an Animaniacs did it, where they got a song for all the capitals and states of the U.S. And she would see the kids mouthing the words as they're trying to figure out what the answer is to get to whatever, but would see them mouthing it because it's easy. Our brains can remember the patterns and the rhyming for those words a lot easier than we can remember the 5 facts of, what not to do in your security awareness program. But yeah, no, I think music is a great way to do it. Just as another way to get the information solidified and get folks remembering.
I agree 100%. Mnemonics. I mean, we did that in school, grammar school when we were young. And it is really a way to resonate. Also, I like to use like current events, like, if there's fish around IRS scams or World Cups coming up, those type of things. You start getting into that dangerous territory of like the sticky fishes, the sticky emails. So you do have to be careful with that. But I do love that. If you guys were to do some type of musical number, I mean, it's already a huge production to develop like a movie.
Yep.
To add numbers and stuff like that.
It'd be fun. Yeah.
China's talking about GRC the musical.
Yeah.
LOL. I love it.
Musical. There you go.
I do love it. I do love it. I do want to give a shout out. You basically ripped the lid off the top of the dad joke train. So now they're just rolling in chat. I don't know if you're seeing this, but Kerry's talking about the Dolphins when he made a mistake. He didn't do it on purpose. Some very good ones.
There you go. Do you know what a vegan and what the difference between a vegan and a computer programmer is? Your audience is going to love this.
Okay. A vegan and
a computer programmer. What's the difference? Well, the vegan is disgusted by a rack of lamb, and the computer programmer is disgusted by a lack of RAM.
Thank you very much, James McQuiggan. He'll be here all night. Be sure to tip your waitress. I love it. I love it. Oh my God. There's so many. In fact, guys, the second day I spent with James in Vegas, he literally had a shirt that said, "I'm loading my dad base."
I keep my dad jokes in my data DADA base.
Yes,
database.
That's it. I'm sorry. I keep my dad jokes in my database, and it was perfect. It was so.
I have another one that says dad joke loading. Those are in my YouTube videos when I would do my dad jokes. And then my other dad joke t-shirt says, I tell dad jokes periodically, only when I'm in my element. And the whole shirt's like the periodic table.
Nailed it. I won't even give a haha on that one. That's good. I like that. I like what we're doing here. My kids, I roll. They don't even get it when I drop dad jokes, but that's where it's at. Shout out to Jess Bishop, who does the dad jokes for her kids, because I guess kid's dad doesn't want to do dad jokes or something like that. I kind of missed the chat, but I saw it. But way to keep the fire strong, Jess. I do appreciate it. So James, we're talking about avoid security awareness mistakes. Is there any kind of glaring mistake or one that we've overcome in the industry, but you still see some laggers committing that could be a best practice for people?
A lot of it may come around your phishing templates that you might be using. Sometimes folks like to start off real easy, or they might start off really hard. What you want to do is kind of have a thumb on, a pulse on your thumb on the pulse of the community, figuring out, okay, are my users, they're savvy enough with email, they're not going to spot the easy one that's, clear text, misspelling, reply back with your social security number, but they decide to step it up. So sometimes they might do the easy ones and that kind of lets them down, and they get, the false reporting, or they go really, really hard and, they get a majority of the people that are falling for it. And sometimes that can skew their numbers. So it's important to make sure you understand where your users are when it comes to doing those phishing simulations. The other one to consider is also be aware of what your culture is within your organization. And what I mean by that is GoDaddy, the Chicago Tribune, West Midland Trains in the UK, and the Oregon Science Health Unit or group all decided to send phishing emails as part of their campaigns that they do normally. But this one dealt with bonuses, dealt with where they were sending out saying, hey, we discovered a surplus of cash this year. Everyone's going to get a bonus. Click on the link to get more information, essentially. Mm-hmm. Well, the problem was Chicago Tribune had just fired all their photographers a couple weeks prior. West Midland had just had some financial issues as well. GoDaddy, I think they were fine, but they put out this bonus type email, and the users rebelled. They basically sent a lot of complaints, and it got up to the top, and so they had to kind of step back. And I think part of that is because either the community was too sensitive to the whole money thing, because money is one of the big lures that cyber criminals, social engineers love to do. Folks that are around, that greed aspect, and getting more money, losing money, that's always a big issue for the users. And so it's important to understand how you're understanding your culture. If we send out this money email, are we going to upset a lot of people? Or are they going to be like, okay, yeah, you got me, I should have checked the link, and it's a lesson, not a gotcha. So I think either those organizations either hadn't explained the why properly to everybody and they weren't fully aware of it, or it was one of the first ones they did. I didn't dive too deep into it, but I just know that those particular organizations kind of got burned when it came to their phishing program. So it's important to make sure you understand what the culture is for your organization, and then do they have the proper understanding of why you're doing the program overall?
Yeah, good point. I just to share another example of this that I've experienced myself. This this happened right before I came in and took over at this place and rebuilt their program. But right before I got started at a place, this was like heat of COVID. Okay. And those surplus checks or whatever they were called, the stimulus checks, like whatever the money that was going out to help people make ends meet.
Right.
It was a fish sent out with a link to claim your surplus check or whatever. And you talk about targeting like a vulnerable population. And I always kind of flip flop on it, because bad guys are going to do that, right? Bad guys don't give a crap. They want you to click on it. So it's completely inside their realm to send that jerk email. And we would want our end users not to click on it. So there's one argument that could be like, it sucks, I'm sorry, but like, this is what they're going to do. So we have to like get tougher skin and realize what these attacks are. Or the other side where it's like, oh, that was really callous and not empathetic of these situations. So it is really a difficult balance to properly, or it's turbulent waters to navigate without taking on some water,
Right. Exactly. And, with regards to, you're doing those phishing emails, and especially with the COVID, that was huge, the COVID and the vaccines, and then the phishing, the stimulus checks. Again, we had those templates available, and then we had other organizations out there, chastising, going, why are you making that available? This is so sensitive. You shouldn't be doing it. And we're saying, look, we're providing the templates. So if you want to use them, you can. You don't have to. we just want, depending on what your culture is for your organization, are they going to be okay for that? And some people just didn't use them because they didn't want it. That was too emotional for them to use. So the idea then was the recommendation that I was making, talking with the organization, would be, okay, you need to tell your users that you will never send them any information about COVID, vaccines, or the stimulus checks. You're just not going to send those emails, because if cyber criminals are sending them in, then they know right away. They go, oh no, this is a phish. This is not legitimate. We need to get rid of it. But if you're going to be sending emails out about that, then you want to make sure that they're able to spot the real from the fake phishing. Because otherwise, one email may come in that's actually legit, and a cyber criminal may be sending them right in after it that goes, oh, we've had a change with the stimulus checks. You're not going to be able to get them now. And they go, what? Oh my God. And they can click on the link. So, yeah.
Well, so you're talking about culture, right? And it might be difficult for some people to gauge that, or if they're an MSSP and you're like servicing 50 different companies and each one's going to have its own culture. I know KnowBe4 has done a phishing by or a security culture report, excuse me. I'll throw a link up here so people can get it, but is that a report that could help people with what we're talking about right here to be able to better understand it, or what's that report's target?
So the security culture report that came out, we've had them come out for the last 3 years. What it does is it looks at the different industries and gauges based on surveys that we've done to see where they are in regards to their culture score, essentially. And right now we're seeing a lot of the organizations are sitting in and around the 70s, which is not very good. We want to get them into the high 80s and hopefully get into the 90s. So we're seeing a lot of organizations are working on and improving their security culture. We do have another report. It's the Security Culture Maturity Model Index. You can Google that on KnowBe4.
Yeah, and just if you allow me to interrupt for one moment, you can see on the pop-up here. I don't know where it is on KnowBe4, but it's on their website. If you Google KnowBe4 Security Culture Report, which is why I've written it here, it should take you to this report he's talking about, so you can check it out. Same with the other report you just mentioned. Can you say it again so I can type it?
Yeah, the Security Culture Maturity Model Index.
Okay.
I believe that's what it is. But you'll see it when you're looking at security culture with regards to KnowBe4. But that maturity index kind of goes through a little more of the details about where you are in the range. It's between 1 and 5. We're seeing a lot of organizations in and around that 3 area where they're doing the training and the assessments. Now we want to start looking at trying to change and get more secure behaviors from users, and eventually get it to where security is top of mind. And they're almost like an HDR. You mentioned earlier about an EDR, emergency detection and response. How about an HDR, a human detection and response? So that's kind of the goal we're looking for.
Oh, I like that. I do like that. That's cool. I know, just because we had talked about it, I threw these little slides in right before we went live because James and I were talking about it and it came up. So I do want to ask about this too, because I think there's real value in this. Another report that you can get for free, right? These reports
these are all free. Yep.
Yeah. Is phishing by industry report. I know this doesn't segue from what we're just talking about, but guys, like I like regularly reference by industry reports, because to me it is so valuable when you're trying to make an argument to the CIO or the CFO to get money. Basically, you can use these reports if it's true, right? I mean, obviously you're not going to just pick data to fit your agenda, but well, you can, but what I'm saying is, like, a report like this, if you're in manufacturing, do you happen to know the top one? I know manufacturing's the most ransomware one, but
so yeah, manufacturing, education, they're on the bottom end. Energy's kind of down there. The top ones is your banking, healthcare is down the bottom. But basically, when you're looking at phishing through the 50,000+ organizations we're supporting, when you start your phishing program, your phishing assessment program, usually what you see, you do the phishing first, then you do the training. And right out of the gate, what we see is about 33% of the people end up falling for that phishing email. That's 1 in 3 people within your organization. So if you got 100 people in your organization, you're looking at 33 people. Once you do the training and you continue doing those phishing assessments, after about 90 days, you get it to about 1 in every 6. maybe 1 in every 7. The goal is to get to about 5% of your people are clicking on the links. Because as we know, and you've talked about it, security is not 100%. It's all about reducing risk and reducing your exposure.
Oh, yeah.
So after about a year, you get down to about 1 in every 20, 1 in every 25. That risk is a lot easier to manage for your CISO, your CIO, whoever's taking care of it, than dealing with 1 in every 3 people that's opening up the door, letting in the cyber criminals. So, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So, well, it's worth grabbing the report, people, because it can help it depending on your industry and stuff. Also, want to give a shout out to Kenneth Strickbine, excuse me, Kenneth. It's talking about SANS also as an awareness maturity model, so you can compare and contrast these different ones. It's all about having tools to help you operationalize your program, right? Whether it's frameworks, whether it's templates, whatever it is. It's all about leveraging existing assets in order to reduce cyber risk. Because at the end of the day, that's the job, right? Whether it's technical, whether it's operational, whether it's administrative, whether it's, human engagement or whatever. We're just about out of time. So I know it went by quick. I do want to thank everybody for being here today and engaging. James, I always like to give my guests an opportunity to say some final words, whatever they want. So let me give you the stage and, feel free to share your best dad joke.
I'm going to bring the mic in nice and close, kind of like I'm on a stand-up comedy show. I thought about what to kind of say, and, the goal here with Security Awareness Month is to look at trying to get people to change their behaviors, get security top of mind. And doing that, there's a lot of information, great information that's out there, a lot of great resources. So certainly check it out. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way. I'm on Twitter too, but LinkedIn's the best way. Please connect with me. Let me know that you saw me here on Gary's show here on Simply Cyber. And I'd be more than happy to connect with you. And I'm posting stuff all the time. But, with all the cybercrime that we deal with that's out there, does anybody know why Superman doesn't help us fight cybercrime? It's because he's afraid of cryptocurrency. Anybody know? Anybody know what you call a computer that sings? Adele. Last week, or last month, Apple comes out with they came out with the new iOS. I don't know if anybody knew, but there's a new feature in there where all you have to do is smile at your phone and it will unlock. They call it two-factor authentication. And I will leave this last one with you. I don't know if anybody heard, but Wonder Woman and Spider-Man are going into business together. Yep, they're going to call it Amazon Web Services. And I'll throw back to my good friend Jerry.
Oh my God, those were wonderful dad jokes. Good thing this is being recorded. You can go back and pull those. James McQuiggan, an absolute delight. Great guest. Thank you so much for delivering educational value. We've been talking about how to avoid security awareness mistakes. We covered tons and tons of security awareness techniques, best practices, things to avoid, philosophical underpinnings, cultural differences, and all of those. So I genuinely appreciate it on behalf of the Simply Cyber community, which you're a member of anyways, James. We genuinely appreciate you being here today, and we hope that you can come back and join us at some point in the future.
Definitely.
All right, cool. I'm going to send you off to the green room real quick. And you guys, you know what we're going to be doing here really quick. It's pretty standard practice. If you don't know, every single weekday morning, I go live and do a daily cyber threat briefing, delivering the top cybersecurity news stories of the day, providing expert analysis on what you can do to operationalize that information, perhaps put it in a phishing email to phish your end users, or educate them in a security awareness method on, hey, this is what we're seeing right now, uptick in IRS, or hey, World Cup's around the corner, or hey, the holidays are coming. There's going to be, you've got a delivery package waiting for you. Like, I'm sure there's going to be an uptick of those emails. Whatever it is, we're doing it in the daily cyber threat briefing. All you have to do is go to simplycyber.io/streams. So basically this URL/streams, and it will take you right there. A lot of great people are in there networking and doing all sorts of stuff. We're in chat right now. So if you enjoyed the vibe of what happened today, there's going to be much more of it tomorrow morning, minus the interview. It's just me talking. So, if you didn't like me, you might want to skip that one. But on behalf of myself, Thank you so much, community, for being here, for engaging, for just great questions, great engagement. Thanks so much to James McQuiggan for all his expert advice and for his time. Genuinely appreciate that, because I know that is a rare, valuable commodity. Y'all, be good, and we will see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Special time tomorrow, 9 a.m., because I got to drop the boys off at school. 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Y'all be good. We'll take care.